G'day. As longer term viewers will know, I use a series of stub drills that I've flattened off to produce square bottomed holes for counter boring for bolts and things like that. For some time these things lived in a plastic bag. As I got more of them, I thought I should really get up a drill caddy or something for them. And I started making one of those, and I got as far as the things to hold the drills, and I never quite got to the case. And then one day I decided, well, I should really finish that. And so I went and bought a Huot case and started modifying it to suit. And so this is how I did that, and that involved cutting down the holders, putting in some new dimples, and re-welding the case. This is what I'm starting with. It's I think it's Huot brand. Well, they call it a drill annex. Here in Australia we call it probably a drill case or something like that. And inside of that, well, at the moment it's empty, but inside of that there are a number of sheet metal parts. And one of the interesting things here is for a hinge, they've gone and just extruded out a little bit of sheet metal. And so that sits in another extrusion on an inner piece. So that'll hinge like so. And then that just pops in there. So it's quite a neat little design. Now, I've got two things that I need to do here. One of them is shorten these, because this is designed for a full length jobber drill bit, and I've got stub drills, and so I need to bend the base of this up to about this level. I've mocked it up with a bit of cardboard and tried it, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of cutting and so on. But the other thing I'm going to have to do, which is trickier, is reform these pivot points. I'm going to use a variation of my dimple tooling to do that. But there's 4 different sizes of that, so that's going to be interesting, and they're also reasonably close here to the what would you call that? An upstand, whatever you want to, whatever. So it's going to have to be some pretty close tolerance tooling. You can see here I've done the easy bit. I just cut up there, cut a flange down, then put this into the finger brake and bent that down. So it's pretty much the same profile as here. I've also drilled a 2mm hole in there, and that's going to guide my, for want of a better term, extrusion. The extrusion looks like that. So basically it's a 4mm hole in the middle with a 1mm upstand, which means that I can have a 2mm hole in there to guide, and I hope that's going to work for me. The punch I'm going to use, I've got that sized so that it's fits that, and this part is going to be going through and pushing that out like so. Okay, and the cone is just there to guide it in. So I've got a 2mm hole there. I've got a cone with a pretty much a 2mm diameter tip on it, and it's just a matter of putting that in there in a vise or a press or something or other, and pushing that into there. There's my first attempt. It's not actually too bad. It's got the height. It fits inside here where it's meant to, and gives me that pivoting function. So that's all good. I had to remake my tool because I managed to drop the first bit of this, and it's disappeared into the great unknown. So made up a second one and shortened it all down. And to put it in, I actually used my Knipex parallel pliers. I've talked about these before, I think, and the amount of force they can exert, but these were just big enough to be able to pop those into being. So I've got another one to do of this size, this one. And then I have this one here to do, which is a smaller one again. So I have to make up a new tool for that, but that's okay. It certainly looks like that this principle is working. So the swaging, the extruding, whatever you want to call it, is getting better. I've discovered that getting the die part, I guess, lined up pretty well with this is important, as you'd expect. It helps form a nice even sort of swage. So that's good. I've got drills in here because I've been trying it in here with the larger one and seeing how they all sit flat, and they all come out at even, which is good. The tricky one is now going to be this one. This is designed for smaller drills, and so you've got this diagonal piece here to hold the base off them. Now, fortunately, I'm only going down to about 5mm or so. So I'll fold that up, I think, there somewhere, and then have to work out where exactly the pivot point needs to be to line everything up. It might be this one, it might be this one. I'll just have to see about that. It could also be one of those things that I need to redo that bit as well. I hope not, but we'll just see how we go with that. Here I am halfway through the process, and I realise I haven't actually given the necessary dimensions or tips on how to get to the dimensions, so this is it. So the punch part, that's the ID of the smaller hole, so that's the ID of these ones. Okay, with a bit of a taper there just to help guide that in. The OD has to be to suit because that's pretty darn close to the sheet metal there on the bend, so you may have to reduce that down. The matching part, this part, has to produce a diameter which will go into one of these holes, and so that's basically the the ID of that hole there is the diameter of that, and the OD of that doesn't matter. So that's all you're doing, and that, if everything's lined up, will produce that little upstand. Here are the three parts for the punch and die. So there's my clearance device. That's the diameter that I need to fit in there. There's actually an M3 pin, dowel pin with a chamfer cone on the front, and that's just drilled a little bit undersize, and I'll then push that in so that sticks out like so. So see, with small parts and big hands, and then that'll just plunge in. One idea that came to me rather belatedly was that if you're going to extrude this sort of dimple, if you choose the size in the middle there right, you can actually run a tap down there and get yourself a thread. Now, it's not a wonderful thread, there's probably only 2 or 3 sort of threads there, but at the same time, for holding a bit of sheet metal on or something like that, it might be just the ticket. So that's another possibility with this sort of extrusion. This is the state of things at the moment. I've got my 2 larger caddies done and dimpled, and they're hinging quite nicely, and they come up level, which is what we want. This is the final one I've got to do. I've already bent that up. Now I have to put a spot of weld on this loose piece here just to secure that, but that's all right. Now I want to get the top of this drill, not too far above these, because the box is flat, or not flat, but it's got a slight angle, but it's not sloped up. I was going to put it there thinking, oh yes, it's nice and it's out of the way and all that sort of thing, but I've realised, of course, that this thing's got a pivot, and so if I look at this is quite down, so I'm going to have to put this down here somewhere and hope that I can get a tool in there to extrude that material out. But other than that, it's all plain sailing. Once this is all done, this actually clips back in the box, and so this is all self-contained. It's one of the things I like about this design. It's quite a neat little design. And then in use, of course, you can pull these things up and have a look. Here's the end result with all the drills in. So I've got my little, medium and large drills here, and they're all coming up around about the same spot, which is what I want. Now, the problem is, of course, is this, that the box is way longer than this. So what I'm now going to do is basically cut a slice out of the middle. The ends of this box are too nicely formed to start trying to unpick them, and then there's also the hinges. So the easiest thing is actually to take a slice out of the middle. The only features there are really the catches, and they're pretty straightforward. You can see there there's a couple of little bumps that this locates into. I'm not going to put it in because it's difficult to get out, but that's the next task, is to take a slice out of the middle there. I worked out this needed to be shorter by 45 millimeters. So I ran a bit of masking tape around there, put some marks on there. So I've got two parallel lines, and now what I'm going to do is just take that middle bit out, put those together, weld them, and repaint, and I should be fine. I just hope it works that way. Here's the finished item. Welding sheet together like that takes a better welder than me, but it's good enough. It certainly opens. The drills will hinge up, which is what they're meant to do. So I'm quite happy with that. I need to just finesse it a little bit so it'll close a bit more easily. But there you go. So I hope that's been a bit of an inspiration to people, and shows what you can do if you have a bit of a weird idea. Thanks for watching. Please share, and we'll see you for the next one.